All right, so we're back, and I'm sure you guys have all heard the news by now. Jake Paul versus Hasim Rahman Jr. has been canceled, and there's a lot of back and forth going on from Jake's team, from Rahman's team, from the media, from other people, to who's right, who's wrong, what happened, what didn't. Was it a contract issue, politics, weight issue, not enough in seats? I'm gonna try to do my best to answer it all in this video, but before we do that, and speaking of putting butts in seats, I know some people that would have helped Jake fill that arena. It's the sponsor for today's video, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a ticketing app that makes buying tickets super simple. I got it on my phone, and it's by far the best way I've ever bought tickets. Whether it's a Jake Pauler fight, a KSI fight, basketball, football, a concert ticket, whatever it is, SeatGeek puts tickets from all over the web in one place to make buying simple. And they rate every ticket from 0 to 10 to make sure you're getting a good deal. Green obviously means good. We know that's the color of shmoney. But guys, don't worry about spending so much of that sweet, sweet green, because I got the hookup for you. Use code WADE for $20 off your tickets at SeatGeek. Again, that's $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek when you use code WADE. And make sure you click that link in the description and download the app. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into this breakdown. So what happened with this Rahman Jr. Jake fight? Why has it been canceled and not postponed? And where do we really go from here? I think I got the answers here. So the breakdown, let's go. Okay, so this entire situation, it's confusing, the timeline's messy, but in my opinion, it comes down to three simple things. Number one, what Hasim Rahman's actual weight was when he signed to take this fight on July 7th. Number two, the weight checks of Rahman Jr., why they were mandated, who they were mandated by, and what the result of them was going to be. And number three, the real reason this fight was actually canceled. All right, so number one, the official weight of Rahman Jr. when he signed to fight Jake on July 7th. This one is almost indisputable because Jake and their team have video evidence of Rahman Jr. weighing 216.5 pounds on July 7th. And not only do they have the video evidence, it's public now, so take a look.
Here's what happened. Long story short, he signed a contract to fight me at 200 pounds. So he sent a video into the commission the first time he weighed in at 216 pounds.
Is it? Sorry, short.
And here is Rahman's story.
How much did you weigh the day you got the call? Hey, you want this Jake Paul fight?
It was like probably 230, 232, something like that.
And you have to be 215?
No, I had to be 200. I told them what my weight was. They knew what my weight was, and they knew I was gonna have to lose about a pound a day for 30 days in order to make 200 pounds.
So you heard it there. Rahman says he was 230 pounds and was supposed to lose 1 pound a day for 30 days. That story changed multiple times, and it went from, well, I was 230 to I was 220 plus. And in his own virtual press conference, this video that Jake and BJ Flores released with the timestamp of when it was sent to them was brought to Rahman's attention. That's when he said probably the most true thing you'd heard about this whole weight issue, and the most damning as far as what exactly went on here.
You also got to look at where I was in the videos. This was at the long run. I had on a big box raw. Shout out to box raw. I had the big trash can thing on. So in drenched in ambulance. So whatever my weight was, then it may have went up or down from July 7th. But that was a day after they called me for the fight, or 2 days after they called me to actually do the fight. So yeah, I'm trying to lose weight because I know weight's coming off. So if that was water weight that had came off and then came back when I hydrated myself, then that's what it was.
Make no mistake about it, Hasim Rahman Jr. doing what he did, trying to go out, run, drain himself, cut that water weight. He did it so that he could take this fight, and I don't blame him for that. This was a massive opportunity for him. The Jake Paul fight would have paid him more than he got paid for anyone in his career. But what he did was cut probably 10 to 12 pounds of water weight extremely quickly, then hopped on a scale, sent that to Jake and his team, and apparently to the commission so that they could say this guy is 216 pounds, the weight difference isn't that big, and the State Athletic Commission can say, okay, this fight can be sanctioned. Whereas if he showed them what he actually weighed, which he said was 230 pounds, they would have never sanctioned it in the first place. But the deception and the extreme weight cut of it leads us to point number two, and the reason there was weight checks to begin with. Not Jake's team, but the New York State Athletic Commission. Why were there weight checks being put on Rahman Jr.? Because When he came into this week, he weighed 215 pounds, which when they get this first check at 216, 3 weeks later, he's only at 215. Now the red flags go off for the New York State Athletic Commission, not because they don't believe Hasim Rahman can't make the weight, it's how he might make the weight. And with New York being one of the stricter boxing commissions in all of America, they have a really stringent policy on extreme weight cutting. So it wasn't Jake's team that was deciding to throw all these weight checks at Rahman Jr. That was a commission call because they saw a guy that fought at heavyweight at 224. He came in a week beforehand, still 215, worried he was going to try to rip a bunch of weight down quickly, which to be honest, looks like that was going to be the plan. Not really great for the athlete, and it's under their watch. So not only did they mandate weight checks, but they moved this fight from 200 pounds and only would sanction it at 205. So then the 205 limit was introduced, and Jake and their team agreed. Again, let's keep things in perspective. Jake, who normally fights at 190 pounds, had already agreed to come up to 200, 10 pounds higher than he normally fights. According to Jake and his team, they accepted. But again, on the side of Rahman, we have some contradictions because according to his own promoter, he was telling journalists that Rahman could not get under 214 and that he wasn't going to come to 205. This has been confirmed by people on Jake's team talking to Rahman Sr. saying he's not coming down. But here's what Rahman Jr. had to say, and I felt like this was what gave the game away and really what we were dealing with at the end of the day. A gamble from Rahman Jr. and his team that didn't go their way.
At this point, you say you can make 205, but you're around 215, so why would you count a week before the fight to a weight that you're already at?
I mean, I felt like they was gonna come. I felt like they was gonna come with something more than 205. I'm clearly, if I'm 215 now, then I can come down some more. So I'm thinking they're gonna see it logically and come to something. Come to 212. Come to 210. The most I could get. I'm a fighter, and I'm the only one in that ring. So I'm gonna get as much as I'm gonna get as close to whatever I can, the most I can get that I'm gonna try to get. I'm gonna do that.
That right there is the biggest indicator for what I think was actually about to happen here. Rahman Jr. and their team, they're obviously upset about Jake pulling the plug, but their goal was to see how high Jake was going to allow him to weigh in at. And when Jake didn't budge, they didn't budge either. It seemed like Rahman Jr. wanted to weigh in at 215, take all the penalties and fines, force Jake's hand to fight him at 215 while Jake would probably be 200, maybe even less. And even though Rahman Jr. said Moose and Kaysen was a backup they had ready, once again, Steven Espinoza said there was no backup officially made for this fight. Rahman Jr. was the backup to the Tommy Fury fight. So again, the cracks in the foundation of the story, they're getting too big to hold it up. In all actuality, what really happened here was Rahman Jr. and their team, when they figured out from the commission that this was going to be raised to 205, they gambled to see how much more they could get in allowance. Once it's past 200, it's heavyweight. Jake should be able to fight me at 215 or 210 or 212. And in reality, that was never going to happen. I do have to defend Jake a little bit because he does fight at 190 normally. 200 was already 10 pounds up from what he fights at. They gave him 205, and still they were trying to haggle for more weight. I get it on Rahman's part. It's a smart move if Jake wasn't the promoter, right? You could maybe do this if you were under one promotion with the main event fighter opposite you, but Jake is the main event fighter and the promoter, so at any moment's notice, the card's done. They can cancel it whenever. And of course, 215 would not have been fair to Jake. He didn't sign up for 215, he signed for 200 and he made it there. Hasim signed for 200 and when there was an opportunity, tried to negotiate his way out. Again, I don't blame him, I'm just saying what happened. And for those people that are calling Jake a weight bully because he has been bigger than all his opponents, tell me the time Jake weighed in at 15 pounds more than one of his opponents, or 10 pounds more. It hasn't happened, so I don't want to hear the weight argument when Jake has been solid at 190, contracted at 190, and made it every single time. And I can also understand Rahman Jr.'s side of things too, right? He is a natural heavyweight. He is a guy that was tasked with, again, at his natural weight, coming down 30 pounds in 30 days. It was gonna be a hard cut, damn near impossible to do. What I blame him for is he signed his name to 200. And if you sign your name to it, you have to know you can make it without trying to play the boxing politics game and say, well, I'll just come in at 215 and take all the fines, and then get upset and say they pulled the plug because you wouldn't come down from 215 and they weren't moving away from 205 after already giving you 5 pounds. Jake, as the promoter, understood, one, that this was already the replacement fighter. They already had lost thousands on Tommy Fury. Now they're going to lose hundreds of thousands because of this canceled event. So if there's anything you, I guess, could blame Jake for, it's that he went out and found a heavyweight to fight him and put all his chips on the table that he was going to be able to make weight. But to be fair, at the time that they signed him, they thought he was 216 and not 220 or 230 or whatever Rahman actually was. So like I said, the blame kind of has to go square on the shoulders of Rahman Jr. here, not because every single thing was fair to him. I'm not saying that it was, but when you sign your name on the dotted line and you can't make that weight and they give you a different weight and you still want more allowance and more allowance, at that point you're playing politics and you can't really be upset when the other team calls you on it and has the control to shut this whole thing down. So where do we go from here? Listen, I'm still a massive fan of Rahman Jr. I still want to see him go and fight. I still want to see, his trajectory in the heavyweight scene. I think he's a really skilled guy, really talented, great charisma. You guys saw him in the interview with me. On Jake's end, listen, you gotta get away from the curse of the fucking Bambino at this point. Leave New York. Get out of Madison Square Garden. It's cursed. And honestly, as far as opponents go, probably wait for Nate Diaz. He has one fight left on his UFC contract, and it's against Khamzat Chimaev. Good God. Assuming that Nate comes out of there with all his limbs attached to him, that seems like a great fight for Jake. Anderson Silva's still out there. If I'm Jake, though, I kind of sit back over these next couple months and really start to build out a plan for not letting this stuff happen again. Not Jake's fault, but we need to have fail-proof safes for these kind of things, because if not, people are going to start to tune out when Jake says he has a new fight because they don't know if it's even going to happen. But there it is, man. That's all I got. There's really no answer as to what's next. I don't really know. Really, the only question that remains is, we're going to get a fight card that actually goes through, actually happens? I don't have those answers, but I guess we'll find out.